The smell of roses couldn't hide the stench of the bathroom door swinging open every few minutes behind me. That's where they seated me. Me, the father of the groom. The old man who paid for half the wedding, raised the groom single-handedly after his mother passed, and now sat inches away from the toilet door. I adjusted my tie, pretending it didn't bother me, but every flush reminded me exactly where I stood in their perfect little world, right next to the waist. My name's Arthur Miller, 68 years old, retired carpenter, proud father of one son, Jason. I wasn't asking for much that day, just a decent seat to watch my boy say his vows. But apparently, even that was too much to ask. When I arrived at the venue, a fancy garden hall with white roses and golden ribbons, I was already feeling a little out of place. The guests were dressed like magazine models, sipping champagne and speaking in words that sounded like they cost money. But I was happy. My son looked handsome, nervous, and proud. I caught his eye once, and he smiled. That was enough for me, until I found my seat. "Table 9, sir," said the wedding planner, pointing toward the back corner of the hall. I walked over, expecting maybe the far end of the family section. But no, my chair was pressed right up against the door marked restroom. On the table card, written in gold cursive, it read, "Mr. Arthur Miller, groom's father." The irony almost made me laugh. I thought it was a mistake. So I looked around for someone to ask. Maybe my daughter-in-law, Emily. She was chatting with her bridesmaids, laughing like a queen in her castle. I waved. She looked right at me, and then turned away. My gut tightened, so I found Jason instead. He was busy greeting guests near the aisle. "Hey, son," I said quietly, trying to smile. I think there's a little mistake with the seating chart. They've got me near the bathrooms." He looked at me, hesitated, and said, "Oh, Dad, Emily handled all that." "It's probably fine. Please, just don't make a scene, okay?" A scene. That word hit harder than it should have. I'd spent my life avoiding scenes. When his mother died, I swallowed my grief to raise him. When he got into college, I sold my tools to help pay tuition. I never complained, never caused trouble. But sitting there, listening to toilets flush while guests clinked glasses across the hall, I realized something. I'd been invisible for years. The speeches started. Emily's father gave a long, emotional toast about family legacy and hard work. He raised his glass, tears in his eyes, and said, "To my daughter, who deserves only the best." The crowd applauded. When it was my turn to speak, no one even called me up. My name wasn't on the program. The mic went from her father straight to the best man. I just sat there, silent, smiling through the ache in my chest. Then dinner was served, or rather, delivered. A waiter came around with a plate and accidentally dropped a napkin into my water glass. "Sorry, sir," he muttered. "It's fine," I said, because that's what I always said. But it wasn't fine. The laughter from the main tables grew louder. The music started, some pop song I didn't recognize, and people began dancing. I watched my son spin Emily around the floor, her white dress glowing under the lights. She looked beautiful. I couldn't deny that. But when her eyes flicked over to me, I saw it. That cold, sharp little smirk. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a mistake. She'd put me there on purpose. I looked down at the gift I'd brought, a small velvet box resting in my coat pocket. Inside was a gold pocket watch, engraved with Jason's initials. It had been my father's once, passed down from one man to another, through 3 generations of Millers. I was planning to give it to him during my speech, the one I never got to give. But now, sitting beside the bathroom while laughter filled the room, I thought, Why should I? I took one last sip of my warm water, pushed my chair back, and stood. No one noticed. Not at first. I walked quietly up the aisle, past the dancing crowd. Then Jason caught my eye. "Dad?" he mouthed, confused. I didn't stop walking. At the gift table, I opened my coat, slipped the watch box out, and placed it back in my pocket. Then I turned toward the exit. The wedding planner tried to stop me. "Sir, are you leaving already?" "The cake?" I smiled. "Tell them I found a better seat." And with that, I walked out the door. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. The sound of music muffled behind me. For the first time that day, I could breathe. I sat in my old pickup truck for a while, the pocket watch heavy in my palm. The moonlight caught the engraving. "To Jason, love always, Dad." I thought about the years I'd spent working double shifts, saving for his future, dreaming of this moment. And I realized, love shouldn't make you feel small. Family shouldn't make you sit by the bathroom. So I drove home. Didn't text. Didn't call. Just drove. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. It was Jason. Eyes red, suit wrinkled. "Dad, why'd you leave?" I looked at him for a long moment. Then I handed him the pocket watch. "This was supposed to be your wedding gift," I said softly. "But gifts go where they're appreciated, not flushed away." He swallowed hard, guilt written all over his face. "Dad, I didn't know she—" I stopped him. "You did. You just didn't want to see it." He looked down at the watch, turning it over in his hand. "She said you'd be more comfortable near the back." I smiled sadly. Tell her I was perfectly comfortable leaving. A week later, he called again. This time, from his mother-in-law's house. Things weren't going well. Emily was furious that I'd embarrassed her by walking out. I told him, "Son, sometimes standing up for yourself means sitting alone for a while. But that's better than sitting by the bathroom for the rest of your life." He didn't reply, but I could hear the wheels turning in his head. It's been 6 months now. Jason visits every Sunday. He left Emily 2 months ago, said it opened his eyes about what kind of respect a person deserves, even from those they love. We don't talk much about that wedding day anymore, but every time he looks at that pocket watch on his wrist, I know he remembers. You don't have to stay seated where you're disrespected, even if it's family. Moral: never let anyone decide your worth. Not your title, not your seat, and not even your own child's wedding. Sometimes the classiest move is simply walking away.